Call me Sonic Frontiers, the E to app with my A and the B and the C and the D. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage today. And only today, that's right, we are here to talk about Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. And also, two things I wanted to point out. One, welcome back to my setup. I know it's been a minute. I miss, my layout, my place here and everything. So I'm glad to be back over here. But I also want to give a big shout out to everybody who showed up to the Sonic 35th anniversary charity stream. We raised over 55K. You guys apparently really loved the show, which to me, I'm like, oh my God, like that's everything I could have wanted. You guys actually loved watching it, loved the little announcements, sprinkled it into everything. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. But of course, as always, subscribe to your boy, support the content, and let's get right into this. All right, so as a lot of you know, the worst kept secret in Sonic the Hedgehog history, Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition actually was finally revealed and real. So, for some lore, for some people that might not know, Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition basically leaked as a rate on a ratings board in March, right? And it got us all very early on speculating and thinking like, all right, is this like an updated version of the game? Is this a way better version of the game? What is this? Is this just a Switch 2 version? What is going on? And, it started literally leaking at retailers before because basically what they wanted to do was a live drop. But what made it so bad with leaks is that they had a physical copy of the game. Like they wanted to sell a physical copy of the game, and hiding a physical copy for that long is really tough because a lot of retailers get physical copies like a week or two before launch. And so trying to do a live drop of a game that's going to be physically in stores on the same day is extremely tough. They probably should have moved the physical edition by 2 weeks. And I say definitive edition loosely, physical edition loosely, because, it's a game key card. But anyways, at the Sonic charity event, me and Roger, shout out, we're actually able to announce Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. It is literally the game with, all the content in it, whatever that means, because all the content was free. I still feel very kind of weird about that, you know what I mean, in a sense of all right, the naming of Definitive Edition. I do think some people harp on it a little too much because guys, let's not pretend video games haven't been doing since the PS3 era, Game of the Year edition, right? The Ultimate edition, right? The blah 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 edition, where it's just it's just an excuse to reprint the game and make it fresh on store shelves. A lot of companies and games do this all the time, but this has faced a little bit of some backlash. You know what I'm saying? It's not all fine and happy and hunky-dory with Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. So I actually want to show you guys the game because I actually have it over here. But yeah, just final thing here, it includes all the content in it, and it also has a graphics and performance one. But I actually have it right here, so this is gonna be kind of like a yappable, kind of review discussion. So this is the original Sonic Frontiers, right? It has the zoomed out icon, and for some reason you can see here Definitive Edition doesn't say Definitive Edition on it, but it just has a zoomed in version of Sonic, which I'm all right, that's kind of funny. But as you can tell, here we are. This is Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. Right away, the most noticeable thing you will see with the game, and if you've been following Sonic Frontiers for years, like I have, you guys know I adore this game, one of my favorites. The pop-in. Look how much more of the world you can see in front of you before the pop-in becomes an issue. This is literally a way better fix than most of the other platform versions of this game. I'm not even joking. You know what I mean? This is literally a massive thing. I had one of my more tech-based friends in chat, I think, shout out Ace Super. He was telling me that they're basically the values from the beta of the game, that it just has a much higher draw distance and render distance over here. So as you can tell, this is a mass improvement. But one thing you'll tell right away is everything is kind of musty, and that's because the resolution on this version is really low. Obviously, right now, by the way, I am on a resolution mode. And actually, I'd like to actually go to Chronos, because I do feel like Chronos, the lighting and how it looks shows things a little bit better, right? But you'll notice that this resolution issue is a problem across the board. As you can see here, like I said, the pop-in is way better, but things just look like a little low res in performance mode, right? Because you know how video games. Listen, I hate this thing that video games do nowadays. The resolution mode versus performance mode stuff. I wish games figured their shit out so we wouldn't have to choose anything. But so this is the performance mode on the game, and here's my thing, right? Is the resolution ideal? No, right? You still have some moments like in where the FPS you can kind of tell it gets a little choppy, you know what I mean? But I cannot believe they fixed the draw distance, and I'm actually more upset, to be frankly honest with you, that they did not drop like this update of the draw distance fix on the other platforms. Essentially, like when you're running, you'll really notice like it really is the resolution that's the problem, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because like for the most part, like you see me like jumping around, moving here, it's pretty solid. Again, like I said, the draw distance is like the pop-in is so much better. I've seen footage on Twitter also about like the Final Horizon area that the pop-in is way better than the original. Now, this is the graphics mode. Obviously, I want to go for you guys on the performance. Sorry, this is the performance mode. Let me show you guys the graphics mode of the game, because the graphics mode is not my favorite thing. So graphics mode makes it look a lot more like closer to the PlayStation, but it's graphics mode, which means you are then playing Sonic Frontiers in 30 FPS, which is not. I hate it. I don't know how people can play games like this. Like, I know at some point your eyes would get used to it and you would be fine, but for me, it's just not. It's not great. I don't like playing like this. But again, I acknowledge that like games do this thing, because I remember when I booted this version of the game up for the first time last night on stream, and I was like, ugh, but the more like I played it, and your brain kind of like adjusts, to not be like disturbed by something. And so like even right now as I'm playing it like this, I'm like, okay, it's whatever, if this was my only option in life, I wouldn't be too upset. But yeah, this is like what the graphics mode is like. And again, I cannot stress enough how insane it is that they fixed mostly the pop-in issue, because that was like genuinely my biggest problem with the game. And I'm honestly upset that that fix is not on the other platforms or versions of the game. Now, I do have a little bit of handheld footage actually that I have for you guys as I'm doing this sort of free flow show and tell. So this was handheld footage I had over here of performance mode on Ares Eye. Now, the video doesn't really do it justice, but the thing about handheld mode is, again, it runs great in performance mode, but the resolution is bad. Like, I'm talking it in performance mode, it looks like it's 480 to like 600p or something. You know what I mean? It does not look HD when you are playing in handheld performance mode. Now, granted, can we live because it is just a handheld performance mode? Yeah, it's not the end of the world at all. But that's that version. This is the quality mode in handheld, where again, things I think it's like 720p. And again, it's 30 FPS. So as always, when it comes to 30 FPS, pick your poison, which one you like, right? And so that's the biggest takeaway I have from, checking this version of the game out, is it's the resolution that is the really big problem for me, because otherwise it's Sonic Frontiers. You know what I mean? It's everything that Sonic Frontiers is. There's no like, it's not like a Switch thing where the Switch version has like weird specific issues to it. Like, it's not broken. Like, this is literally Sonic Frontiers, on Nintendo Switch 2. So honestly, right, it's a very weird situation. I wish they would have just locked in. Now, I want you to know though that this is miles, and I mean miles better than original Sonic Frontiers on Switch 1, because this is the Switch 1 version of the game. Yeah, I am immediately disgusted. Like, the Switch 1 version looks like it's such an unbelievable downgrade. You know what I mean? Like, you have the pop-in issue. All the textures look so much more like low res. Like, the pop-in is way, like, you're seeing the world like fucking form right in front of you. It's bad. You know what I mean? It is extremely bad compared to the Switch 2 edition. I like hate everything about this. And there's no like performance versus graphics mode on the Switch One edition. So this is just like what you were, you know, playing. I don't know. I know a lot of people that unironically played Frontiers via the Switch One edition. And I wouldn't really, I don't like it, man. Again, like I said, you would probably get used to it if like it was the only version you had to play, but it's like, it's so, it's not ideal at all. A big thing that has caused a lot of, you know, controversy about the game is the price point. So I believe it is $50 that goes on retail, and there's no upgrade path. Like, this is like the biggest offense about Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition is like, it has a carry over save from Nintendo Switch 1. Like, it can detect that you own the Switch 1 version, but there's no like upgrade path. Like, there is, and that's my biggest thing, is there is nothing about this like version of the game that warrants you not being able to get this version at like a discounted rate on the eShop, or like this be like a free upgrade. Like, this should be a free upgrade, if I'm being honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, this is not something that should be $50 on top of it. Like, you know, they gave me this copy of the game, like, shout out, of course, Sega, you know, but like, as always, I'm gonna be honest with you guys with the stuff, like, that's a tough sell. You know what I mean? Telling someone to buy the entire game just so that basically it runs better is kind of lame. And again, you can't use the argument that it has all the content, because all the content was free. You know, if all the content that came out post Frontiers launch was, you know, a $30 battle pass, or, you know, a $30 DLC pass or whatever, you know, and then you got this game for $50, you'd be like, okay, you know, like, it comes with all the content, right? I get it for $50. It's not that bad. But like, as it is, when like the quote unquote added content is, you know, all the free downloads are in the game, it's just not really good practice, you know what I mean? And like, you know, this isn't just a Sega issue. Like, Square Enix has this problem with their games, apparently, where like, you know, when they've made a Switch 2 edition, you can't just like transfer your you can't just, you know, upgrade. You have to like buy it. I just don't know why they do that, you know what I mean? I just, it feels bad, you know. I mean, it feels like scummy, you know. That's just not like, I don't know, like, at least give people like a discount, you know what I mean? Like, at least give people like a nice 25-50% off if you own the original game. I feel like, honestly, like, that would go over way better. Like, hey, you know what, $25, I get this upgraded version of the game. Because like, see, as you guys can see me playing it like this, like, I wouldn't mind playing through the game like this, you know what I mean? Like, this is like a version of the game, like performance mode on TV. I would not mind playing through Sonic Frontiers like this. In fact, I feel like, you know, if you've never owned the game yet, you know, which obviously if you're watching this video, you're probably someone who's played Sonic Frontiers, I would say, you know, I'd say you could opt in for this version. And even like, you know, the handheld mode footage I showed you, like, the problem is I wish it wasn't like it's such a weird issue where like, I can't believe they fixed the pop-in, but the cost is like the resolution. You know what I mean? It's like, we fixed one problem, but it costed like another, which is like ultimately like super frustrating in my opinion. Because, you know, like, I feel like the Switch version basically could have been the absolute best version of the game. You know what I mean? Like through and through, it could have been the best version of the game had they simply just, you know, bumped up the resolution a little bit more and fixed stuff. Now, we could go to cyberspace. I do know that when I was playing it last night, that cyberspace basically, you will notice less of like, so because even here, like, you'll see like some of the textures pop it a little bit, but like, it's nowhere near as bad. I mean, a normal person would play this version, but don't play it in graphics mode, man. I'm just telling you, you know, as your creator over here, you're okay, you're content creator, not your, like, I ain't your parent, you know what I mean? It's just not ideal, right? Because like, you know, I'm gonna swap over really quickly to the PS5 version. I kind of think you guys can all tell right away this is the one you'd want to play, right? Like, through and through, you see this, right? And like, dude, it's so, I just wish that it fixed the pop-in, because, but it's like, ultimately the way I feel like this runs is ultimately so much better. But man, the pop-in is still such a weird issue. Why did they fix the pop-in on Switch, but the resolution is dick, right? But they can't, they gotta patch it, man. If they can patch this PS5 version to fix, you know, the pop-in, I feel like it would be like 10 out of 10. You know, it's all I literally have ever wanted from this. It's like, ideally here, you know, You're not compromising any of the performance of the game. It feels like you're playing a nice version. You know, the FPS doesn't dip. You're just playing Sonic Frontiers, and it feels very natural. But again, it's just the pop-in that, you know, continues to be an issue on the PS5 version. The thing I will say is I noticed, yeah, I'm back on the Switch version over here. I will say, like, cyberspace, I feel like is especially the place where you notice nothing. In a sense, like, you don't feel like there's really an issue. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this. It's been a minute since I've done 1-2 like this. But on a Pro Controller, you know, I feel like the cyberspace levels I notice run and look better. In fact, when I played this level in Handheld, you know, actually, look, watch that. I'm gonna do this for you guys like live right here. I'm gonna show you guys live demonstration of Handheld performance mode. Right, you'll notice that. Look at this. Right, the resolution issue is nowhere near a problem in cyberspace. And I wonder if that, like, is just a situation where, like, you know, it's not loading as much of an open world and it doesn't feel like as bad, where the resolution is, like, nowhere near as problematic as it was, you know, in the open world. As I was saying, look, let's talk like normal people for a sec, you know, like, aside, like, you know, if you are just a normal casual person, right, and like stuff like that doesn't bother you, like, you know, resolutions and whatnot, then I do feel like if you don't own the game, that this is great. Like, it's at least nice to have the game be playable on Switch 2. I just don't think there is an excuse for a now 4-year-old game on, you know, the Switch 2, you know, that level of hardware, which, you know, we've seen run games like, dude, literally people were saying this week, you know, Devil May Cry 5 just came out on Switch 2, and that's like, that game can go up to 120 FPS. Like, that shit is a nice crispy 1080p 60, like, in Handheld I think it's 726. Like, they like really cooked with the Switch version of that game. So this one just kind of feels half-baked, especially even compared to other Sonic Switch 2 editions. Like, I think, you know, the Sonic X Shadow Gens port on Switch 2 is actually like significantly better. And again, this, to be fair, this game had the same problem. There was no upgrade path. You had to rebuy it. I hate this practice so much. I cannot stress to you enough. Please, Sega, right? My thing about this practice is I feel like, unironically, it nets you less sales overall, you know? Because I feel like people are more willing to upgrade for a cheaper price point than to flat out buy an entire new thing of something they already own on the same platform. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like way more people would have bought the Switch 2 version of Sonic X Shadow Generations, right? Which is great. I mean, you look at this is pretty much Shadow Gens, you know, through and through. It doesn't feel like you're losing or compromising anything. The resolution, you can tell, is like a little bit lower compared to other platforms. But besides that, like, this is pretty perfect on Switch 2. You know, like, I would gladly just, you know, play the Switch 2 version of Shadow Gens forever and live my life. But my thing about this practice of, you know, selling the entire game again for you on the same platform sucks, because my thing is, like, you're losing ultimately. You know what I mean? Like, you are the one that's, as a company, making less money, because you're telling people that have already bought the game on your platform, on one platform, to basically buy it again. You know what I mean? Which, like, it's just like not. Also, holy shit, I am cooking. Oh my, I forgot how much sauce I added this. You're telling people to basically, you know, buy the same thing again. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it just doesn't, it doesn't hit the same. You know what I mean? I just wish that when they did Frontiers DE, that they had just like made it, all right, listen, we're gonna make this $20 if you own the original. They should honestly make the game cheaper than $50. I mean, I feel like Frontiers could go for like, it's a 4-year-old game now. I feel like you could make it like half price even, but I think they're just seeing a lot of repeat sales with Frontiers. I mean, the game is about to hit 5 million units worldwide, and I would guess that a big chunk of that, you know, sales is like a lot of Nintendo. You know what I mean? A lot of Nintendo fans love Sonic. You know, they love, you know, Sonic games. They love playing them and everything. So I would venture that, you know, the Switch version sold like a decent amount, you know what I mean? But it's like, again, for me, like, the Shadow Gens port is like a perfect ideal world for them, where it doesn't feel like there's really a compromise on anything. Because look at this, by the way, I am like By the way, I'm cooking this level right now. I might as well just keep going over here. Hold on, let's see if I can do a good run without dying. Hold on, ooh, and I did. Oh my god, I'm so goated. Yeah, never mind. Of course, fuck. Also, they released this really cute art for the game's launch where, you know, Sonic's holding Joy-Con twos. But anyways, some final thoughts on this as we wrap up here. Overall, would I recommend this version? Like, you know, let's remove the price aside. Let's say, like, you know, you're just like, hey, Fidel, I want to buy Sonic Frontiers, you know, and I have a Switch 2 and I haven't played it. Like, would you buy it? I'd go, yeah. You know, I'd say go for it. Like, if you've never played the game, you have a Switch 2, you want to play portable and all that stuff, I'd say go for it. Now, if you had a PS5 or a PC, I would probably just tell you to get the PS5 version, you know what I mean? Because handheld is nice, but it's like, you got to be okay with like a lot of compromising the resolution. It's like you're going to be looking at like a 480p video game, and you know, that's your choice. You know, you can do that. But you know, if you don't own the other platforms, or you're just like, I just kind of want to play Sonic Frontiers here, I'd say, you know, again, this version is really like, it's not awful. It's just like, it's compromised. But again, the draw distance, and I just love that they fix the pop, and I really mean it when I say I hope they add this, you know, somehow patch this into the other consoles somewhere. I feel like they're not going to, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like, again, the name Definitive Edition, I feel like was used like extremely loosely, and it's also wrong. I mean, it's not the definitive way to play the game. It is, you know, like, I don't know, there's nothing definitive about it. You know, it's like, this is just Sonic Frontiers on Nintendo Switch 2. That could have been a little bit better overall as a port. I think the resolution is like my biggest issue with it, because aside from that, I'm happy running around Frontiers in 60 FPS as you know, the world intended over here. But you know, if you do factor the money, which, you know, is valid, $50 and no upgrade for this is kind of rough. You know what I mean? Like a 5-year-old, I know a 4-year-old game like this should be like half off. But again, the money debate is always like, it's always going to be subjective. You know what I mean? I'm always bad about like talking about, you know, yo, Fred, what are your thoughts on $80 marker? But yeah, I'm always bad about talking about like, you know, video game price, because it's all subjective. I mean, everybody get like, I don't know, if you're a millionaire, is $50 that bad to you? You know, if you're someone who's like living well, is that a lot to you? If you're someone who, you know, not making a lot of money though, but like $50 is a lot, you know. But I don't know. Overall, I think, you know, they could have done a little bit better. But you know, it works for the most part. I really found handheld mode to be the most disappointing part, because I was actually really looking forward to playing through the game on handheld mode, because that was like the experience I didn't have. But it's like, now that, I don't know, I mean, I can do it, I'll probably get used to the 480p, but like, why am I playing a game in 480p on Switch 2? You know what I mean? Like, it is 2026, bro. Like, we gotta, come on. There's like genuinely there's literally like no excuse anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there's like zero reason when I can play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on my Switch 2 and handheld mode, and it looks great. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I hope they figure this stuff out. That's it. That's my little, you know, discussion about Sonic Frontiers DE. Let me know in the comment section below. Is it enough for you? Is it a problem? I mean, I hope they fix it. I mean, they could also patch it, which would be very nice. You know, I do know that I remember my friend Nathan and a bunch of people were complaining about the Persona 3 Reload Switch 2 port. That was not great. And they eventually patched it to be like 60 FPS, which was way better. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, they could do a better job with the ports. But overall, you know, like, as you can tell, you're like, when I'm in the flow of it and I'm just playing, God, I love just jumping around in Sonic Frontiers. It's Sonic Frontiers. You know what I mean? So that's really it. That's all I got. So guys, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you sold? Are you not sold? Are you upset? Let me know. And of course, I love you guys, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.